Today, we're going to be doing the Scuba Mod on our rear differential breather. This is Wanderlust Overland.
Where the heck are we?
This can't be right. We're going to be extending our rear differential vent up out of any deep water we may find ourselves in.
Why?
I'm so glad you asked. Water and oil, of course, don't mix, and it can cause major damage inside here to the gears. We want to make certain that no water can get in here. The oil level just comes up to here. Everything above is air, and the vent will allow that air to escape when everything heats up, and then will allow the air back in slowly when it cools down. So if the air can't get in and out of the vent, it'll blow out the seals at the ends, which are at or below the oil level. If that happens, oil will certainly get blown out, and in a water crossing or even a deep puddle, water will get sucked back in.
So it's always just blowing or sucking.
That's just dirty.
Let's start out by taking out the stock vent. Now if yours is all rusty and crusty, you may want to soak it down with some PB Blaster ahead of time. That may eliminate some of the colorful language and your neighbors suggesting that you take an anger management class. Now this is, or at least can be, one of the least expensive, yet one of the most important modifications you can do for your rig. All this costs around 50 bucks, but has the potential of saving you thousands of dollars in repairs.
Looks simple enough, not too many parts.
Now this fitting is going to take the place of our stock breather vent in the Diff. It's just a fuel line fitting for a Toyota Camry. Here's the part number. You can pick it up at any Toyota dealership. It only costs like 7 or 8 bucks. This is 1/4 inch inside diameter by 1/2 inch outside diameter fuel line, about 10-12 feet of it. Stay away from plastic hose, because especially if you live in a colder climate, because it gets really brittle when it's cold and it won't stand up to all the flexing that it's going to do back at the rear diff. Then at the other end, we're going to need a small filter to keep out all the dust and bugs. We chose this. It's just a simple little filter you can pick up at any auto parts store.
So I've already got Never Seas on, and I'm gonna thread it in.
One thing that some people will overlook is the rear diff locker on these Toyotas have a breather too, and it's right here. We're going to tie it into our breather line with this brass tee. Short piece of hose coming off of the diff into the tee. Then we'll run our line up. Alright, now we're ready to run the rest of the line. Plug it into the top of the tee here. Now one thing you got to make sure of is make sure that there's plenty of slack in this line to accommodate for the axle going up and down. Okay, looks like we're all set back here. Now we're going to run the line underneath, zip tying it up nice and tight, and we'll meet you under the hood. So we have our hose run all the way up to the engine compartment from the back. We have it zip tied up nice and tight, away from any exhaust, and certainly not zip tied to the drive shafts at all. And we're going to mount our filter, or our breather, right up here next to the firewall. Most people will just mount their breather way in the back, either up into the cabin behind a piece of trim, or even by the gas cap on the outside. We wanted to leave our options open for the future, because up here there are also breathers for the front differential right here, and the front activator or actuator or whatever it's called. And there's breathers behind the engine on top of the transmission for the transmission and the transfer case. And someday, if we feel ambitious, we may plumb those into this line also, but it's really not, we don't feel it's really necessary, because they are up pretty high anyways, but like I said, if we feel ambitious later, we might do that. Now the bracket we're going to use to mount our breather is this. It's actually a bracket for a light bar that we never actually used. You can easily make a bracket just like this, just by taking a piece of scrap metal or a piece of aluminum, bending it, drilling a couple holes. This is a 1/2 inch hole for the fuel line to come up through. And then this is a 1/2 inch hole in the breather. That just slides on there. Tighten up the clamp. It sits like that.
We were actually kind of lucky. When we went to put this bracket on, there was a bolt already coming through the firewall. But when we put the nut on, it stripped some of the paint off. I have the perfect shade to touch it up. If this is your first time watching one of our videos and you'd like to see more, hit the subscribe button. And don't forget to ring the bell if you want to be notified.